Evening. We'll get started here in a minute once Gerald jumps on. How's everybody doing this evening? Have you ate supper yet? Still got to cook once this is over. Come on, Gerald. While we wait, I'll pan across. I can't go this way, but I can go this way. See all of these CDs. Oh, look at that stack. Till you get all the way over to the VHS. If I go any further, I think you'll be able to see Salted Caramel. There you go. There's a boys Big Brothers Big Sisters bowling pin there in the background. Yeah, there's Salted Caramel Crown Royal. Please don't judge me. A friend gave it to me as they headed out of town. There he is. Pan across like a strong. There he is.
Hey, man.
Oh, look at you. You showing off the record collection.
Yeah, I figured it's the sports writers that I've seen in the world when they're on, it's Pardon the Interruption is the name of the show, and they'd always sit in front of the most interesting stuff. They're really good at sitting in front of interesting stuff.
See my vast CD collection?
Yeah.
Although, here, you may like this. So see this camera right here?
Uh-huh.
That may be a camera from the paper of record here in Knoxville where they used to shoot the pay stubs with that camera right there.
Okay.
That was headed to the garbage bin, and Richard, now I can't remember his last name, Richard, who worked in marketing, just walked up to me with a box, and he was like, "Take this to your car. Don't look in it." I was like, "What the hell? Are you giving me a bomb? What the fuck?"
This is evidence.
He's like, "Just take it. Just take
it."
And so I took it and I opened it up. I was like, "This is a very cool old camera." But yeah, it was going to be thrown away.
There newspapers. I had a certain editor that I worked with who liked to collect it. It was, I think, photograph negatives. And as newspapers closed shop, it became kind of a buyer's market.
Yeah.
To pick up these old shots from, communities all over. I mean, back when Jimi Hendrix was on tour and played your little rinky-dink local coliseum or something like that, and
yeah,
they're getting rid of their archives to downsize in space and close down buildings and so on. It was things like that people, were able to procure.
it still hurts me to say this. Apparently, between when I left the first time and came back the second time, Wayne Bledsoe told me a story of him walking in one day, and there were literally garbage cans of photos where somebody was just going through the archive, some intern, and just throwing them in a garbage can. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Well, we need the room." And you've been up there. They didn't need the room. And, and was just getting rid of garbage. And I was like, why did somebody not contact like the McClung Museum and say, we're going to bring you boxes of photos?
Right. I mean, that's where that kind of stuff can live. And, you know, it's someone who doesn't have an eye or understanding of history. I mean, you can't really badmouth an intern for doing something in good faith, even if it was a really dumb idea.
Yeah, I'm not bad-mouthing the intern. I'm bad-mouthing whoever their boss was. It was like, just throw all these away. Mm-hmm. It's not important. Well, we've got digital versions. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Oh, well, and I could, you know, the old salty journalist in me could lament the loss of institutional knowledge at all levels in newsrooms. Yeah. And that's kind of an easy trope to pull out. And if I want to be really surly or, you know, 3 or 4 drinks deep, I could go on and on about it. But I mean, there is a part that's come along with newsrooms and journalism. Like, being the paper of record doesn't mean you're the historian. Right. Yeah, okay, the first rewrite of history is what journalism is, they say. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have a responsibility to maintain that record.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it would have taken a modicum of effort to box those up and just take them to McClung.
Oh, completely agree. Yes.
Yeah. I think about that because my dad is still searching for a photo. Apparently, do you follow golf at all?
Just a little.
Okay. Apparently, when my grandfather was real young, he used to caddy at Cherokee. He didn't go there. He was too poor to go there, but he caddied. And there was one time when Sam Snead and Gene Saracen, I think, came through town. Do those names mean anything?
Yeah, Sam Snead's big deal. Yeah.
And my grandfather caddied for Sam Snead.
Oh, how cool.
And it was on the front of the paper of record of Sam Snead, Gene Saracen, and then you could see my grandfather in the background caddying for him. But it was funny because we have not found a good copy of that photo. We found a crappy microfiche where everything is blacked out, but everything, the golf course is light because it was light. So it's essentially like seriously black and white stark. But even that, all of us can look at and say, well, there's Papaw right there because how he's standing and how he always stood.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, so as someone who's tried to find stuff like that, my dad has tried for like 2 decades to find that photo.
Oh my gosh.
And the best he's found is a crappy microfiche.
And I wonder what, and I can guess where that is living down at the library. Yeah, I mean, going back, there are important records though like that are being lost, like as we speak, by the minute, all over. You know, digitization has brought us many things, the ability to do stuff like this, but like it's been at a cost. The fun thing, that's a 9-pound cat right there. All kinds of fury. But the thing that has been frustrating to see is that when we have sports and we see a team win a title, they bring out the hats, right, as the confetti is falling down. And, you know, what else do you see them holding? A front page of the next day's paper saying Pats win the Super Bowl or what have you.
Yeah.
Like there's still a place for that hard, physical, tangible product.
Yeah. And I think about years ago, I went to the library. This has been 15 years ago, I bet. But they had unearthed a lot of the Thompson brothers. They had shot video, or I want to say film, but like 8mm of the early days before the Smokies became the Smokies. And a lot of the footage they had, because they were avid hikers, was when it was still logging. So you had completely barren mountaintops. And all this group of people who went after church, so they're all wearing their Sunday best. And you could tell it's 90 degrees out there. Yeah. And they're hiking. But one of them was the dedication of, I think it's Cumberland Gap, and it was FDR was in a car being driven up to Cumberland Gap.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think about that, and I'm like, that was 15 years ago. Where is that footage? Who has that? Because I don't think the Thompson people care for that. You know, they don't. They're employees. They don't.
Yeah.
Hope that's good Lord. Yeah, we're going down a rabbit hole here.
No, I was just at Thompson Photo. I just went to go pick up a print.
Nice.
They've got now's a good time to get a photo printed, by the way, or anything printed at Thompson Photo, because it seems to me that they need a new roof. They had buckets everywhere collecting water from recent rains. Yeah, it was rough.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so here at the beginning, why don't you tell people, anybody watching, what you do for a living?
Well, I wear a few hats, but for purposes of this, I think it's probably best to kind of back into it. I am the editorial director and primary writer for beerandfoodweekly.com, which is a food and beverage site that focuses, I'd say, first on beer, second on food, and third, tied for second, on travel.
Yeah.
We talk to a lot of the people in the local Knoxville scene about what they're making, what they're drinking. I occasionally will get out there and write with my pretty little words, how I'm thinking or feeling about this or that circumstance. And we also, when we get to travel, me or my partner, Aaron Russell, who's the creative director, when we travel respectively or whatever, we'll come back with some shots and some stories from that. So we've covered trips to Belgium to talk about beer, or a brewery just across the river here locally. So we sort of spread it out all over on the website. Aside from that, I teach journalism at the University of Tennessee. I have one class that I teach per semester. It's usually pretty small. It's a digital news writing class. So that's a lot of reinforcement of journalism fundamentals, but also getting students to think journalistic thoughts in multiple different platforms.
Right.
And my full-time pays the bills insurance job is I'm an investigator at the public defender's office.
I didn't do it.
Well, we're on your side. Whether you did or didn't, we'll provide you with good representation.
Wait, I need to rescind that statement. I plead the fifth. I may have done it.
Don't talk to cops.
No comment. I had to tell one cop at the gas station last night, I was like, I think you got a headlight out. And right as I was saying it, he was like, I already know. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And there's part of me who went, can you put on a mask, please? Please, can you put on a mask?
Oh, my gosh.
Just went in the gas station, you didn't wear a mask. Please.
I mean, all these people walking around not wearing masks. And it's not necessarily that I'm, really big on the rules or anything. In fact, I generally like to break them where possible. But I also try not to be an asshole when possible, too.
Yeah.
So I've got my mask on in most circumstances if I'm in an enclosed space.
Yeah, I went to the grocery store before I popped over and got gas, and it was 50 or 60 people, and there was only one other person wearing a mask.
Oh.
All the employees were wearing masks, but nobody in there. And before anybody yells at me for that, so here's a little behind the scenes. My mom was in the hospital for 6 weeks during all this, and nobody in the family could see her.
Oh, man.
And then she was in a rehab facility for a few weeks after that. She just recently got home.
Yeah.
And so put on a mask.
Yeah.
So we can get past this, and people who can't see their family can see their family.
And I've heard stories about people who have been avoiding treatment because they have fears that they might, pick up the virus if they go to, check out what happened to their foot or ankle or what have you. And I mean, it's important to take care of yourself as well. Telemed is a real thing. Just call a doctor first. I'm in no position to give medical advice, but I think telemed is kind of okay to suggest.
Yeah. So, okay. So you do all those things. You wear all those hats. uh, are you remaining? How is the Beer and Food Weekly? Are you all kind of reporting on COVID, or did you all choose to kind of keep it positive or keep out of that lane through this?
You know, with the coverage that exists out there, it's hard to do anything that's novel.
Okay.
And what we want to do is give content to people that they will appreciate, that is something that they couldn't access elsewhere. So that's why I view the brewers and the people who are involved in the industry locally, to be able to get their side of things. And you know, like I'll put my pen to things on occasion and write out a little bit, as I have on COVID and just being smart and staying apart and that sort of thing. And you know, even I'll get personal on occasion as well on the website, where, you know, this is my perspective, this is what I'm dealing with, or this is what I've experienced. But I try not to go too far down that, because nobody really gives a crap about my opinion.
I don't know. I have you on here, man. I mean, yeah.
I just figured you were hurting for content, so.
Well, I think you're so, like, you all live downtown and you're so immersed in it and in the scene as it is. Like, was it hard? Was it hard to be creative, or was it a struggle to make those decisions?
So, I mean, a little backstory. My wife works in the hospitals here, and so making the decision to, you know, lock ourselves down happened before any official thing happened. I'd say we were at least a week, maybe even two, before we got anything from a government. And we're going to be conservative in getting back out there. But in terms of what we've observed otherwise, like, folks more or less kind of fell in line. I mean, people in downtown, they really paid attention to it. And even as things are starting to relax and people are opening stores back up, the business owners themselves are being pretty diligent in how they're opening things back up. Now, I mean, as far as it pertains to me and the content that we put on Beer and Food Weekly, some of it has been a response to how things have gone. We talked to Matt Gallagher pretty in depth about how he approached PPP and what he's observed in people and how it's worked for his restaurants, Knox, Mason, and Amelia. And it's been a challenge. And everyone else we've talked to, it's been a challenge. But, you know, as far as being creative goes, people have been creative in their responses to it and found ways to survive. Some are even thriving. Like when we were talking with Matt Payson as part of that restaurant group, you know, the bagel shop up here in North Knoxville. They have not only survived, but they've been kicking ass. They've been super busy. So, you know, those little stories are the ones I've been looking for. Where are the bright points of light to kind of look toward? You know, to rehash what we already know, or to try and reinforce in a doom and gloom, for lack of better terms, way, isn't going to be productive to what our audience wants.
Right. And for the teaching, are you teaching remotely, doing the Zoom?
Yeah, after spring break, I moved all my classes online and tried to make myself available to students as much as possible. And knowing that was happening, and that the students who I give stories and assignments to go out and write, they wouldn't have access to that in those communities. They had to change what they were going to write about, because you understand, after you're coming back from spring break, you're getting into final projects, stuff you've been working on all semester. So I kind of lifted the lid on them to pursue what they needed in whatever way they thought was going to be best, given the sources that they had at hand and the capabilities that they had. Because those last, I'd say, 6 weeks, March to the beginning of May, like pretty much everybody was on full lockdown in some form or another.
Yeah. Is the semester already over for UT, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
We're done.
You are done. So who's the famous person you got to be on your Zoom calls?
You know, I'm not that big of a wheel to be able to bring on any famous people. I just tell stories about how I interviewed someone who might be famous. That's about it.
You're like, the most famous person in my phone. Saul Young is in here. He's probably the most famous person in my phone.
Yeah, he's Knoxville famous. Well, he's the most famous person in my phone who would pick up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it's just because I have contacts from back when I was a political reporter. So, but I don't know if you can qualify a politician as a famous person.
Infamous with some of them.
Yeah. Well
and
known.
and now the third job, like, has that kind of remained active, or how has that worked in all this?
So, I mean, public defense in a nutshell, and for those who aren't familiar with it, is the attorney that you get if the court will assign you an attorney if you cannot afford one. That's what that person is. Here we have a very robust office. In fact, it's a national model what was built up over here over the last few decades. And so with our new public defender, Eric Flutton, who just won the Republican primary, they're going to have a special election later this year in August, but all signs point to him being the public defender to finish out this term.
Okay.
One of the first challenges he has after winning the primary is, here's a pandemic, and how do we respond to it? So it's unenviable. He's shifted to working virtually for many of the people in the office, but yet there are still people who are going through the legal, the criminal justice system who are going in front of judges for hearings and facing charges from the DA, and we're trying to, uphold justice and keep them, their rights protected and so on. So it's been a challenge for them. Certainly one that I wouldn't want to be a part of. As it impacts me, I'm working remotely for the most part. Going in the office here and there to take care of a couple of things, but primarily I'm apart from people. I'd say most of the time. The one person I see is my wife, and I interact with a couple of people when I go to the store.
With Lauren, but she's staying there at the house, because I've seen some where they've gotten them like Airbnbs or hotels or something for some of the staff at the hospitals.
Yeah, so she's unique in that she works in a lab, so she's pretty protected, so to speak, apart from like the ER and places. Now, she will go into operating rooms in certain areas of the hospital as needed to assist, lend her expertise on whatever procedure is going on. But her situation is a bit unique comparatively to someone who's, say, in the ER.
Yeah. It's been interesting. Like, one of my friends works at Children's Hospital, and she works in like communications, and she has actually moved over to where I think she's helping like front desk services or helping to facilitate administering tests. Like, she's talked about like her journey of like, oh no, they pulled us away from here and not pushed. We accepted a role over here to kind of help out with all of that right now.
I mean, and everybody has been forced to adapt in some form or another. And but that's just how it goes. This is, we're all pulling in the same direction, even the jerks who are choosing not to wear masks.
Yeah.
As a human race, we are all pulling in the same direction.
I still stare at them. They can't see the mean face under the mask. But I still, there were a couple of big guys, not bigger than me, but big guys in the store. And I made sure to just stare at them as they passed by. Like,
I see you.
To where it's like, you're not tough, brother. Like, put on a mask.
I've had situations where I've gone through, and I go to the grocery store once a week, and I'm walking through, and they do the one-way aisles at the store where I shop at, and folks are coming down the aisle. I'm like, come on, and these are folks who are all masked up and gloved up and stuff. I'm like, dude, wrong way. Yeah, but
it's so simple.
You can drive yourself crazy trying to police other people, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I just use my size over that, though. That's why I'm here. It's to just judge people from a higher angle. Lucky I'm not wagging a finger or anything. So you are, with those 3 gigs, you're pretty much staying busy through all this.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm one of those types of people who stays busy kind of regardless. I have a momentum that my cat occasionally attack me over here.
I like right when I mentioned that, the cat's just like, attack.
I must kill this guy.
Yeah.
But like, I carry a fair amount of momentum. That said, I mean, there is a lot of inertia that happens as well, too.
Yeah.
I'm a world-class navel gazer, and you can find me at one of a couple of places, very socially isolated, having a couple of beers around downtown Knoxville. And
Yeah.
you're free to join me, guys, if you want. I'll even give you one. But so like it's a balance. Like when I'm on, but when I'm off, man, I'm out.
You're done. You're
Yes.
done. So you're not in that time. You're not like thinking about any other like passion projects or maybe alternative ways to earn income. You're zoned out.
Yeah, I mean, I will, like, I have to check out because
Yeah.
when I'm on,
Right.
and so like it's even the checking out that I do is active.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm doing this now, and this is how it's going to be, and I've got to,
Yeah.
or I'm going to drive myself crazy. And I'm not sitting here saying that I'm laying in a gutter with a needle hanging out of my arm or anything, but like, I'm chewing on whatever's coming up next. Beer and
Right.
Food Weekly is always in the back of my head, and I'm always thinking about how I'm going to approach a new story or develop a new story or new angles. Folks that I can talk to find something new. People tap me on the shoulder all the time and say, "Hey, look, we need to write about this." I mean, it's not all that different from when I was working in a newsroom, and
Yeah.
I'd have contacts and sources who I knew, and I could call them up, and they'd answer me quickly with good ideas, or they would reach out to me and say, "Hey, look, you need to check this out. It's happening on the horizon. This event, this thing, this whatever." Like many content producers, we've been scraping a little bit into the barrel because it's hard to find original content when so much of what you do is surrounded by events and happenings and things like that. A beer release or a dinner that's coming up, or
Yeah. When
new
was
restaurants.
Beer Week supposed to happen?
Beer Week is,
Aren't we around that time right about now?
yeah, and typically we'll have some previews going, and Aaron and I will get together and go gonzo and try and do something every day on Beer Week, which can be exhausting around our respective full-time jobs. But we're a little starved for content in that regard.
Yeah.
The regular stuff we're used to is a little not as it's not there. Yeah.
I've got a cabinet up there with nothing but beer that some of it's like 5 or 6 years old that we can do taste tests with, like Bourbon County 2015 to see how that's hold up.
You know what? Actually, I've got a Bourbon County 2015 in my closet right now.
Nice.
As I understand it, I think it was 2015 or 17. It was one of these recent years where Bourbon County or Goose Island, rather, the brewer, had found some bottles that were infected.
Yeah, because going down that rabbit hole. I didn't mean to push up my glasses, but I should have just. I remember that year because it was weird when the next year came out. They had found some good bottles that weren't infected, and they released those too. Like if it was 2015, they did that in 2016 because I was at Harvest Town when it was still open. And they were like, "Oh yeah, and we have some 2015s." I was like, "Weren't those skunky?" And they were like, "These actually passed the muster." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll take one of those too."
Yeah.
2017.
Yeah.
I had I think it was Southern Tier Samoa beer, Samoa this. And it was a lot better than I remembered when I first got it.
Had you let that one cellar for a little bit?
Yep. For at least, I think it's been out for at least a year. And I know pastry stouts are all the rage right now, which I'm happy about. Because here, Aaron always makes fun of me because it'll be like July and I'm pounding stouts. He's like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I hate IPAs, man. Hot take.
Hey.
I hate IPAs."
You like what you like.
Yeah.
I come to beer from two very distinct like threads in terms of my own experience with it. In that the first fancy beer that I had, and this is true for many, many, many people, first fancy beer I had was Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And there's a taste profile that is driven deep into my brain on that one. And damn, I love that beer. I was also a broke-ass college kid at the time, and I could get a 12-pack of BBR for less than $5. So I got a taste for that, too. Those two beers are kind of hardwired in me somewhere. I don't really drink a whole lot of PBR anymore. The Montucky Cold Snack is my cold, cheap, and domestic beer.
Okay.
Plug though right now for Alliance, and we're going to write about that this week for Beer and Food Weekly. They have a lager that they released last week, and I think they still have some. It is outstanding.
I think I saw that because they had done on Instagram one of those things where it like took up 3 panels, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Because it comes in chunked out, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Lager now that it's starting to heat up, I'll drink a lager. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good one to have. They did a great job on that. Lagers will show flaws, and they nailed it as far as I can tell. Yeah.
That's good to know. Unofficial sponsor, Alliance. So through all this, are you remaining pretty positive, or do you have any moments of dread?
So I've had some dark days, being honest. And I'm the type of person that when I have something coming on, like a feeling or emotion or something like that, I let it live and work through it and then get on with my life. I try not to dwell in those like dark spots too much, but yeah, I mean, when I found myself sitting at home interacting with just my wife and not seeing some of the people that I'm used to seeing or doing some of the things that I'm used to doing, like, oh, that's jarring. It's such a switch from what we're used to as normal, that it rattled me a little bit, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I realized that I'm not alone, that there are many other people who are dealing with this and whatever angle and who are impacted in a much greater way. And I look to the work that my wife does. I look to the work that the attorneys that I work with, I'm not an attorney, by the way, the attorneys that I work with do for the indigent populations that our office serves. And that kind of actually gives me a little bit of hope and purpose, because we are still able to use the metaphor again, find a pinpoint of light where there's some hope, where a life can be a little bit better through some of the work that we do. And that's also been driving some of what I've been doing for the website itself. And so you find, for people who are fortunate like myself to be able to have work, you find some joy in doing that work. You find some of those moments of light where you can in doing that. And for the website, for Beer and Food Weekly, for maybe even providing that for others. We are pretty brief and pretty succinct and pretty polished on our website. There's a good reason for that. I want people to be able to spend approximately 5 to 10 minutes with a story.
Yeah.
When you're staring, looking at your phone, I would like for you to be able to spend that amount of time reading our story and maybe just come away feeling a little bit better than you did when you started.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because one text thread with 2 friends, they finally had to put the kibosh on any COVID talk in that thread, because they're like, I can't take it, because they were same thing, like they were reading on news websites, Twitter, everything else, and then me funneling in like, have you heard this? Have you heard this? They're like, okay, stop.
Yeah,
it's like it's got to be positive.
Yeah.
So today I made the joke. I said, okay, here's one story I need to share, but in order to make up for that, I'll send you boobs. And they're like, okay. So I sent them a GIF of Homer doing this. And then of Bob from Fight Club with John's, head in his boobs.
That was
Edward
played
Norton
by Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I sent him those 2, and one of my friends was like, good call. Good call.
Nice. I've been fortunate in that I've been able to connect with some friends who I haven't talked to in a really long time, and I feel like I've deepened those connections a little bit. I mean, you and I have chatted some, and shoot, we wind up hanging out as it is, every 6 months or so, which has been nice.
Yeah. It's always passing one another downtown.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey. Have you all been able to? You all are avid bicyclists. Have you all been able to get out and enjoy the weather?
We have a little bit. So, I think avid bicyclist is a good way to put it. Like, we are not putting on lycra pants and riding out into the country for 30 miles. We are more likely to put on a pair of shorts and ride out to the brewery that's
Yeah.
about 30 minutes, a little bike ride away. Lauren had a birthday recently. We got out and we rode up to North Knoxville and rode down and visited some friends on, patios outside and front yards and so on. So yeah, we've been able to do that. The biggest impact on us personally has been our travel plans. We had a few big trips planned. In fact, we were going to leave to go to Europe this Friday.
Oh God.
But
oh man.
that got scuttled, but like that is the biggest of a first world problem that a middle-aged white dude can have. Like, that's okay. We'll get back to that trip some other time.
Yeah. Need to plan like a culinary trip, like every day. Fix another meal from whatever country you were going to be in.
It's funny you say that because we did that again. My wife's birthday was recently, and was recent. Anyway, she had a birthday. Whatever.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Lauren. Okay, good job. No, I was able to procure through a mail order company some of the staples that you can find in Spain, some high-end anchovies, and high-end anchovies are like $4 a tin. Okay. So like, we're really fancying it up here, but like some Manchego and a Spanish bottle of wine and like, boom, we're in Spain, or tasting things that are familiar to us from some trip that we've taken in the past. I've definitely, my enchilada game is pretty strong right now.
That's going to be a new niche on Beer and Food Weekly. What pairs, and it's gonna be like everything pairs with enchiladas.
Hell yeah, man.
That's it.
And some pizza joints. But I mean, like, what are you cooking? Are you getting into anything that you previously had digging deeper?
No. Since I love the term, I roll solo deep. As a single man, I roll solo deep. So I know on Instagram it looks like I just eat the most egregious of foods, but I eat like chicken, corn, and peas 80% of the time, so I can eat that Inskip grill burger that's too big for the screen. No, there's been a couple of times where I was like, all that talk of like spaghetti early on, I ended up finally finding noodles and beef, and I was like, I have to fix spaghetti. I keep hearing about how it's run out. I have to, and the problem is I just added all these spices, didn't write anything down. And I was like, damn it, that's the best spaghetti I've ever made. And I have no idea what I put in there.
That's okay. That's the beauty of the moment. You were in it. You were there. You were feeling it. You threw some stuff out and then you arrived on the other end with something amazing.
And it was great because it was like a month ago. So it still felt like spring. And I had all the windows open in the kitchen. And I'm just sitting there working at the stove. I was like, oh my God, this is a happy place right here.
I love it.
Cooking all this together.
Those, we talk about, we kind of touched on this a little bit, how we've been finding ways to, I guess, cope, or what I've been doing to sort of work through whatever I'm working through. Cooking is one of those things. For me, I'm a decent home cook. I'll leave it at that. I know people who are far better at it than I will ever be, who, they're running professional kitchens. Like I'm an asshat compared to these guys. But, getting in there and just that kind of, like, I find a little bit of a meditative process in, chopping up the prep that I'm going to have when I'm making, I don't know, it's going to be fried rice or the enchilada of the week or whatever. Just getting through and sort of doing that, where I'm only doing that one thing and my mind isn't thinking about other stuff. I'm listening to some tunes, like I'm locked into the moment. I'm just right there. And I know I'm going to have some tasty food at the end of it. Like that's good enough for me.
Yeah. It is weird how that food tastes better when it's all done and you're not even worried about cleaning dishes or pots and pans. You just sit down, you have everything ready, and you make a plate and you take that first bite, and it's glorious. I don't know another way to put it.
No, you're dead on. And then, you try to ignore that you're going to have to clean up all those goddamn dishes when you're done.
I don't like to think about that. That's later. Although me, I just zone out and just get it done. Okay, let's just get it done.
Yeah. I don't mind washing dishes. As chores go, that's another one that I kind of find the rhythm in.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing it right, by the time I'm done with my meal, I've got a healthy buzz and don't really give a crap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah. So in that vein, we're going to move on to the homework. Because in my mind, as you're washing dishes, you're shaking your ass to the homework of this week, which is, for anybody listening, it's, if you go on YouTube, it's Hot 8 Brass Band's cover of Sexual Healing, but it's the live version where they're playing in the streets.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume, did you know that song already?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, there you go. I figured, so that was a weird one where I was like, I have to send this to a dude. I can't send this to one of my female friends on here because I'm like, no. It's a very happy, joyous community song right here.
It really is. And it gives you the taste of, for all the stuff that we're watching on TV or memories that come back up on our various feeds from when we were around crowds and so on. When we're watching programs, we're like, God damn, that's a lot of people in a room. We can't do this.
They just shook hands.
What are you doing? I bet they're going to kiss next, too. Come on. But seeing that crowd and watching that and being in that moment, what was that shot? That was shot in New Orleans, right?
It was shot in New Orleans. I had to look it up. Brighton's North Lane.
Yeah.
The streets. That's, yeah. I don't even know where I first heard this song. I know I heard it later used in the film Chef, but I swear I'd heard it before that. I just stumbled upon it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But the video's amazing because those guys, they're just out performing and then they end up right on the street and all these people just congregate around. It's just joyous. It's happy. It's such a happy song.
Not only is it happy and has it got like some really thundering horns in there that I love. I think that the trombone is underutilized as an instrument in general. If I had one and knew how to play, I'd just go around making that wah wah sound all day.
I didn't notice this until rewatching it before we went live, that everybody is dressed in like hoodies and coats. And I'm like, wait, so what, is it like 70 in New Orleans and you're having to put on but I saw one guy in a t-shirt and I was like, that's my guy right there. Everybody else is like, man, it's cold. And he's like, no, I'm still wearing a shirt. It's like,
no, I'm cool. I'm good. And that song, it threw me at first, the video, because I've looked at it straight. I didn't do any like research into the band or whatever. I just went blind into it. And I saw like an old school Hornets hat and I was like, whoa, wait, when was this shot? And then I got with it and stayed with it. And I was like, that looks like a new logo on someone else's hat. And then finally, they get into the neighborhood and everyone's popping out their mobile phones and recording whatever the cool thing is. But I mean, that is the thing, like the spectacle, the happy spectacle.
Oh yeah.
That we don't have that right now.
Yeah. So seeing that, it's weird. There's part of me that thinks watching this maybe should be a little sad because you don't have that right now. But I think when I watch it, I just think about what we're going to get to eventually.
Yeah.
Like I was having this discussion today where I heard somebody on a couple of people on a podcast say, well, that's in the handshakes and hugs. It's like, no, we're going to figure out a way to get past this and handshakes and hugs are going to come back.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way they would ever, like, that's such a dumb. So I said that to somebody I was talking to, and she was like, yeah, those people aren't from the South. They don't understand. I was like, that's dead on.
Right. And you know what? Let's not also forget the humble butt slap. As long as you say good game, it's good for a greeting or a goodbye.
I'm going to pocket that right here. And in like 14 months, you're going to get a butt slap. And it's big hands. It's going to be you may actually come up off the ground a little bit when I do that.
Oh, what was that?
Whoa.
Good game, though, so it's all right.
And I will add a PS to that one. So a couple years back, they did a cover of Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Oh, my God.
It's really good.
Wow.
That was one of those, the first time I heard it, I was like, this sounds weird. And then I listened to it again. I was like, no, this is awesome. Like, this is insane. So
it is good, but like finding those moments, we've got to be, you got me thinking about creativity and I mean, I'm not sure where you're headed here, but I just wanted to throw this out for anybody who's paying attention. Like, creativity is not just the purview of artists or makers or people who are making things. Like, yeah, I've been making stuff with words my entire life, basically.
Yeah.
And people will say, oh, there goes Gerald, he's a creative person. People more creative than me will not say that, of course, but it's not a binary thing. You're not a creative person, or you're not a creative person. Like, you approach things and find a new solution to it. That's creativity. You figure out how to adapt your life to what is happening now. That's creativity. You change things in a recipe that you've cooked forever and ever and ever, and make it a little bit more your own. That's creativity. Like, there is no one definition, no one standard definition of creativity.
That's why one of the first people I had on was Stanton. I was like, he's not an artist or, any of this, but it was just how he essentially took it. I don't want to say in stride, but he looked at what was happening. He was like, this is really bad. And I have to figure out a way to make this not really bad for my employees, for my community, for people that I don't even know. And if that ain't creativity, I don't know what is.
And they've done a remarkable job doing that over at Postmodern. I've had the pleasure of having a couple of situations, like Zoom dinners with Stanton and his wife, and me and Lauren and a few others. And my bonds with my friends who are close friends are as tight as they've ever been. And that's really nice and kind of wonderful to have. And again, I'm reuniting with friends who I haven't talked to, my college buddies from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
My God, 20 years ago, I was in college. All right. Well,
don't think about that. Yeah. I've finally gotten to the point to where, like, I had a friend that didn't seem to be doing well. A lot of posts on Twitter or Facebook that I was like, hey man, let's jump on a Google chat. Hey man, let's do this. And so finally, he lives down in the North Sea. So finally this last weekend, I was like, let's do a porch beer. It's like, we can sit far apart. I was like, I'll bring you some beer. I was like, I've got beer here that I have not touched in 5 months. It has no COVID on it. it's I'm going to bring it. He's like, oh yeah. And we sat down there and just talked for like 5 or 6 hours. So it's like, in the hustle and bustle with everything going on, I couldn't, I've never been down there before. Yeah. But with this going on, I was like, okay, no, I'm going to go down there and say hi to him, and we're going to sit there and drink a beer and enjoy ourselves.
There's a part of it too, like, there, despite the restrictions that are being placed upon us by government or by business or by our own selves, like, there's some freedom in that. And it takes a minute, so just work with me through this. Yeah. Like, you are liberated from having to choose certain things, all right? So quite literally, you don't have as many options, but that's liberating your mind from having to think about so many options. It still is down to whether we're going to have tacos from this place or pizza from that place or whatever for dinner for night.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that for those of us who are working from home or not able to go into the workplaces, those of us who have steady gigs still, we are finding ourselves with a little bit more freedom, even if we're not commuting, to have a little more time to do stuff like, prepare for a little bit more complicated meal, or spend a little bit more time on the phone with someone, or dig into a little bit more of our own creative endeavors. I myself have been writing. Nothing beautiful, nothing fantastic, but just getting something out on paper or in the notes on my phone almost every day.
Yeah.
Like that we are kind of stuck in a place is liberating if we allow our minds to wander, because they have the freedom to do so now.
Yeah. 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 There's always 24 hours in a day. That's why I try to explain to people. It's like, everybody thinks they're super busy. I was like, nah, you're choosing to be busy. It's like, you always have extra time. This is just kind of shining a spotlight on that, I think, right now.
Well, and you make time for the things that are important to you.
Yeah. That's how we end this. That's a good moment to end on. Thanks so much for doing this, man.
Jody, man, it's a pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
Yep. All right. See you, man.
See ya.